Hey you guys, so we're going to be making over this box. Now, 2 videos ago, that was my French country thrift flips. I wanted to include this, but this was the gift it kept on giving. You ever feel like you're on a merry-go-round you can't get off? This thing has taken me days and days to complete. So this is my first time using Sweet Pickins Milk Paint. Now, I am going to love this paint because I love to see projects other people have done. I've either missed something or I just didn't get the cracking that I wanted. But you guys, if you have experience in milk paint, drop me a line and let me know what you think. And next project, I promise you, is going to be better. We're going to get it right. So, my first fail, I tried the oven cleaner method to use like a stripper of this stain. This did not work at all for me. But I'm thinking because there's such a heavy coat of shellac or polyurethane on this little box, I'm thinking that's where my problem lies. Y'all say hello to Bolt. Bobo loves to be in the videos with me. He loves to pass through here. So I left it on about probably 40 minutes or so. Came with my wet wipe to wipe it off. Oh, I was thinking it was going to be wiping off. Nothing. So all I can say is I'm going to move forward and my box is going to be very, very, very clean. Okay, I'm just removing the little hinge, and I am going to use this because I am going to use this lid again. So I'm just going to put the hinge and the little tiny screws off to the side. And it was like a coaster holder, I'm guessing. There was like some partitions inside, and the only thing I could think was it held some type of coasters. I'm just going to take my little mini pry bar and I'm going to pry those off. I was not concerned about filling in the little holes where the little nails were at. I just sanded it real well, and you're going to see me put a coat of milk paint inside, but I decided to switch gears on that, and I'm just going to use some chalk paint on the inside. Alright, for my Sweet Pickins Milk Paint, this is the color Butter, and this is a sample. I order a lot of supplies through Ruth and Ruby online out of Georgia, and they're so sweet. They always send little samplings of something. You guys, they're awesome. So what you're going to do with milk paint is it is a powder. You're going to mix 1 part paint to 1 part water. Now the instructions are going to say warm water, and I did warm water, but I've seen people use cold water, and I don't know that it makes a difference. You're going to mix it real well for about 2 minutes or so, and then let it sit up. So you're going to have to be a little bit of a patient person when using milk paint, I'm going to say. I'm usually not a very patient person, so this is a learning process for me. So you're going to let it sit to the side. The longer it sits, it's just going to sit and thicken up, but it's never going to get real thick unless it's dried. And because the surface was shiny and slick, I am going to use Sweet Pickins Extra Bond. Now you're going to mix the milk paint up first, and then mix in the Extra Bond to the milk paint mixture. And then, and just make sure you read the instructions because the ratio is not 1-to-1. It's a little off. And so I'm going in with my first coat. Now, your milk paint's going to be a little runny. So your first coat's not going to be full coverage. Your second coat may or may not be, depending on what your surface is you're painting. For me, it took 3 coats to get a good coverage, and you could still kind of see some of that brown through, and I'm fine with that because I'm going for French country look, so I'm fine with that. If it crackled correctly or like I was expecting, maybe I was expecting, I don't know, but it would have shown some of that brown anyhow. So I'm going in with the first coat, and that's got the Extra Bond in it. The follow-up coats are just going to be the milk paint the powder and your water 1-to-1 ratios. So the extra bond mixture has to sit up for 24 hours. Okay, so just let that dry thoroughly. So I just moved on to other projects, let it sit overnight, came back, and I'm going to show you what that first coat looks like. This is our look at our first coat. And now I'm just going to mix up some more and go in with 2 coats. And like I said, I'm not really worried about the inside of it any longer because we're switching gears in a minute for that. I just didn't want to waste any more milk paint on the inside because it's so dark in there anyhow. So we're just going to use some chalk paint in there. You'll see me wiping it, but then I decided I'm not doing that. Now, I will say that milk paint goes a long way. So what I ended up doing when I did the first mixture with the extra bond is I had to bring out a lot of different projects in my stash to use it on because it's going to mix up a lot more than you think. So I would go smaller with your mixture to begin with and see what you got. Now, when you're doing your second coat, you can use your heat gun or your blow dryer. I just use a blow dryer. And that's when you're going to start getting your texture, your crackle. And there's no rhyme or reason to what milk paint's going to do anyhow. So that's the beauty of it, is you're going to get a little surprises here and there. But this surface just did not. And probably because it was just shiny, I maybe should have sanded it down some, but I did get a little bit of crackling around the bottom edge. And what you're going to see me do is you can use sandpaper, or I just use my fingers to kind of wipe it because you want that paint to come off in those spots. But so this is my second coat. So after it dries, I am going to come in with the IOD frames mold, and I'm using the largest frame, and I'm going to put it on that top. Now I don't need to do all of the frame mold because it's a lot larger than my top surface is, so I just did some and pieced it together. And I'm also going to use that little center there in the center of the little frame mold. So you're going to see me working my air dry clay, and I use DOS, but IOD has air dry clay as well. So I kind of roll mine up like a snake, get it real warm. That makes it a little bit more pliable. Press it down into your surface, and I do come in with a palette art knife, and that's how I even out the back. You want to make sure that your back is even. So a lot of people will use their fingers, but I'm not that good at working it, so I just want to make sure my surface is flat. A lot of people will use an old gift card, credit card, debit card. But anyhow, so when I put it down on my top there, I've got to piece it together, so I'm just going to use my palette knife to do 45-degree angles. Just think about mitering edges because that's what you're doing to piece it together. And then I'm using my Tight Bond Quick and Thick. Just use some pressure to make sure the glue is pressed, your piece is pressed down onto your project you're gluing to as much as possible, but don't smush the detail out of your piece. So that's real important there. And then before that mold is dry, I only wait a couple of minutes, and I am going to come in with my third coat of the milk paint. Now, it was not necessary to put my milk paint on the mold. I know that, but that was the paint I was using, so that's what I used. And I like to do my air dry clay when it is wet. I think that helps with the cracking, and it also helps to fill in. If you've got any gaps, that paint will help fill that in nicely. And again, I'm coming in with my hair dryer. I'm trying to get some crackle out of this. And I got a little bit around the edges, but just not like I was wanting, but that's okay. I have seen people with projects with this milk paint, and they're absolutely gorgeous. This one, I really, really like this project as well. So I will definitely be using milk paint in the future. I just think I won't be using this surface, the slick. I'll just make sure I sand real good, or I'll just use other types of wood. But I'm going to come in and see if I get any crackle and just dry my surface. And then I'm just going to come in with some chalk paint, and that is Ditsy Belle Spanish Moss. And then that's what I'm going to do the inside of the box with. And then I also, the little center oval there inside of my frame, I painted it, and then I didn't like it with that moss green. So I'm just coming back in with some rub and buff on it. And I'm going to completely cover the little center, and then I'm going to do around the edges of that frame as well, just to bring out and highlight all that detail on there. I found the prettiest little transfers for French country, and these are from Redesign with Prima. It's called French Blue. Now, I will say this leans more purple than blue to me, but it's still gorgeous, but it just wasn't the blue I was expecting. It does lean a little more purple. So I'm just kind of picking out some. I thought I wanted to wrap the whole fronts around the box, but then I decided not to. So I'm just coming in and picking out the pieces I wanted to use. Now with transfers, you just use the little tool that they provide. And I will say I did not seal my milk paint first. It worked fine on the milk paint, so don't be concerned, I don't think, with sealing first. But I'm going to use that transfer tool and then just work that in there. It's going to release from that top portion, and then just work slowly and slowly peel up the little top portion, and then make sure in the end that you burnish it real well so that your edges aren't raised. You just want it to be in your piece real well, and then we're gonna seal it in a little bit. So you're just gonna see me working through my little pieces here. And then I put it all the way around the little box. And then I'm going to come in with, like I said, my rub and buff. And then I'm going to paint that little oval little frame, and then pick up the details around the outside of the actual frame as well on the lid. Y'all, this rub and buff, I have had this tube forever. It goes a long, long ways. So, and I love it. I just think it's the prettiest gold. This is the one called Gold Leaf. It's the prettiest gold, and it truly picks up so much detail in your projects, and it dries super fast. Now, I did come in, and I'm not sure what transfer booklet I grabbed it out of, but I found a little floral petal that matched the color of the transfers perfectly. And I did lay that down in the middle of that little oval piece. I just thought it would tie the piece in a little more. And to be honest, I had tried to put something from the redesign with Prima mold transfers in the middle of that mold. And I guess because I don't know if it's the rub and buff or the air dry clay itself, but it kept pulling up my air dry clay. But the IOD transfer laid down fine on it. I did have to work it a lot to get it down, but it did work perfectly, and it's the same color. I did come in with the rub and buff as well and just painted over my hinge and also the little screws. They're teeny tiny, but I did paint over the top too. It's going to be on the inside of the box, but just to make my project complete and make everything flow real well. Now for milk paint, you'll either have to seal it with an oil or either a wax. But here's the finished product. And you can see I did get some cracking around the edges. And I love it nevertheless. So what do you think? Good project? Or did we fail on this with the milk paint? Let me know. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it so much. Give me some likes. Give me some comments. If you're new to my channel, smash that subscribe button, please. Thank you. Y'all have a blessed week.